Rich dad, poor dad. Hello and welcome to this deep dive into the financial philosophies that separate the wealthy from the rest of the population. We are going to explore the fundamental differences in how the rich, the poor, and the middle class view money. Most people spend their entire lives working for money without ever understanding how it works. They are trapped in a cycle of fear and desire that dictates their decisions. By the end of this summary, you will understand why your house is not an asset, why working for a paycheck is a short-term solution, and how to start thinking like a rich investor. Before we begin, I have a simple question for you to answer in the comments. When you were growing up, what was the one phrase your parents used most often when you asked for money or a new toy? Introduction: The Tale of Two Fathers. The premise of this financial journey begins with a comparison between two very different role models. One father figure was highly educated and held a doctorate degree. He was intelligent and respected, yet he struggled financially for his entire life. This man represents the poor dad. The other father figure never finished the 8th grade. Despite his lack of formal education, he went on to become one of the wealthiest men in his state. This man represents the rich dad. Having two fathers offered a unique perspective on the power of influence. One father would habitually say that he could not afford something. This statement is a mental stop sign. When you say you cannot afford something, your brain stops working. It accepts the reality of lack and gives up. The other father forbade the use of those words. He insisted on asking how he could afford it. This is a question mark that puts the brain to work. It forces the mind to expand, search for solutions, and create new possibilities. One mindset promotes mental laziness, while the other promotes mental exercise. Just as physical exercise strengthens the body, this mental exercise strengthens the financial mind. The contrast between the two men was not just about money, but about their philosophy on life. The poor dad believed that the rich should pay more in taxes to take care of the poor. The rich dad believed that taxes punished those who produced and rewarded those who did not produce. One recommended studying hard to find a good company to work for. The other recommended studying hard to find a good company to buy. One said he was not rich because he had children. The other said he must be rich because he had children. Money is a form of power. However, financial education is even more powerful than money. Money comes and goes. But if you have the education to understand how money works, you gain power over it and can begin building wealth. The reason positive thinking alone does not work is that most people went to school and never learned how money works, so they spend their lives working for money. Analysis and insight. This introduction highlights a critical flaw in the modern educational system. Schools focus on scholastic and professional skills, which are essential for becoming a productive employee or a specialized professional like a doctor or lawyer. However, schools rarely teach financial skills. This leads to a phenomenon where highly educated people can be financially illiterate. Consider the story of a brilliant surgeon named James. James spent years in medical school and residency. He earns a high 6-figure salary. However, James has zero financial training. He believes that a high income equals wealth. Because he lacks the mindset of the rich dad, every time he wants something, he simply buys it on credit, assuming his future income will cover it. He says he cannot afford to invest right now because he has student loans and a mortgage. James is essentially the poor dad with a high salary. He has learned how to work for money, but he has never learned how to manage the money he earns. The shift in mindset from "I cannot" to "how can I" is the first step in breaking the cycle that traps people like James. It shifts the locus of control from external circumstances to internal creativity. Chapter 1. The rich do not work for money. The first major lesson is that the poor and the middle class work for money, while the rich have money work for them. This lesson is best understood by looking at the trap known as the rat race. Most people are controlled by two primary emotions, which are fear and greed. First, there is the fear of being without money. This fear motivates people to work hard at a job. They wake up, go to work, and pay bills. They do this because they are afraid of not being able to pay their rent or buy food. This fear keeps them employed and obedient. Then, once they receive their paycheck, the second emotion kicks in. This is greed or desire. They start thinking about all the wonderful things money can buy. They buy a new car, a bigger television, or new clothes. The joy that money brings is often short-lived, so they soon need more money to get another burst of joy. This creates a pattern. Wake up, go to work, pay bills, wake up, go to work, pay bills. This is the rat race. Even if these people are given more money, they simply increase their spending. A promotion usually just means a bigger car and a bigger mortgage. They are like a donkey dragging a cart with a carrot dangling in front of its nose. The donkey chases the carrot, but the owner of the cart goes where he wants to go. The donkey is chasing an illusion. The rich dad taught that a job is only a short-term solution to a long-term problem. The long-term problem is how to survive and thrive financially. Most people try to solve this with a job, but a job only provides temporary cash flow. To escape the rat race, one must stop letting fear and emotions dictate their thinking. Instead of reacting to the fear of being broke by finding a job, one should ask if a job is the best solution to that fear over the long haul. We must learn to use our emotions to think, not think with our emotions. When you feel the fear of not having enough money, do not just run out to get a job. Pause and ask yourself if working harder at a job will actually solve the problem. The rich know that money is an illusion. It is built on confidence and ignorance. If you can master your emotions and learn to see opportunities that others miss, you can build wealth. Analysis and insight. Let us look at a practical example of the rat race in action. Imagine a young couple, Sarah and Mike. They both graduate from college and get entry-level corporate jobs. They are making modest salaries, but their expenses are low, so they have disposable income. They decide to get married. Now they have two incomes. They feel rich. Driven by desire, they decide to buy a house. They believe the house is an asset. Now they have a mortgage. Then they have a child. They need a safer car, so they buy a new SUV on financing. Their expenses have skyrocketed. They now feel the fear of losing their jobs because they have so many bills to pay. They work harder. They stay late at the office hoping for a promotion. They get the promotion and a $5,000 raise. Instead of investing that raise, they decide they deserve a vacation to celebrate. Or perhaps they upgrade their kitchen. The money is gone. They are working for money, but the money is disappearing as fast as it comes in. They are trapped. They cannot stop working because their lifestyle demands it. This is the trap of the middle class. To break this, Sarah and Mike would need to stop upgrading their lifestyle every time their income increased. If they had taken that $5,000 raise and used it to buy a portfolio of stocks or put a down payment on a rental property, they would have started the process of having money work for them. Over time, the income from those investments would grow, eventually replacing the need for their salaries. That is the exit from the rat race. Chapter 2. Why teach financial literacy? The second lesson focuses on the importance of financial education. It is not about how much money you make, it is about how much money you keep. There are countless stories of professional athletes who earn millions of dollars a year, but end up sleeping under a bridge 10 years after their career ends. This happens because they have no financial literacy. They know how to make money, but they do not know how to manage it. If you want to be rich, you must understand the difference between an asset and a liability. This is the only rule. It sounds simple, but most people do not know the difference. Here is the definition used by the rich dad. An asset is something that puts money in your pocket. A liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. This definition is different from what traditional accountants teach. Accountants might list your house or your car as an asset, but the rich dad asks a simple question. Does your house put money in your pocket? No, it takes money out of your pocket. You have to pay the mortgage, the insurance, the property taxes, and the repairs. Therefore, your house is a liability. The poor typically only have expenses. Their money comes in from a job and goes out to pay for food, rent, and clothes. The middle class buys liabilities that they think are assets. They buy houses, cars, and boats. They think these things increase their net worth, but in reality, they are just increasing their monthly expenses. The rich buy assets. They buy stocks, bonds, notes, real estate, and intellectual property. The diagram of a rich person is simple. They have an asset column that is full of income-generating investments. This column produces enough income to cover their expenses. Once the income from the assets exceeds the monthly expenses, the person is wealthy. They no longer have to work for money. Their money is working for them. Analysis and insight. The misconception about home ownership is perhaps the most controversial and important part of this chapter. In many cultures, owning a home is viewed as the ultimate financial goal and a sign of success. Banks and the government encourage this belief because it benefits them. Let us analyze two individuals, Alex and Ben. Alex listens to conventional wisdom. He saves up a down payment and buys the biggest house the bank will allow him to finance. He is proud of his home. However, for the next 30 years, the majority of his income goes toward paying off the interest on that loan. He also pays property taxes that increase as the value of his home increases. He pays for a new roof when it leaks. He is tied to his job because he must make these payments. At the end of 30 years, he owns the house, but he has very little liquid cash and has lost the opportunity to invest that money elsewhere. Ben understands financial literacy. He decides to keep his living expenses low. He rents a modest apartment or buys a small duplex where he lives in one side and rents out the other. The tenant in the other side pays most of Ben's mortgage. This puts money in Ben's pocket, or at least significantly reduces his housing expense. Ben takes the extra money he saves and buys stocks in solid companies. Over 30 years, Ben's assets have grown through compound interest. While Alex has a paid-off house that eats cash for taxes and upkeep, Ben has a portfolio of assets that pays him a monthly income. Ben can now buy a large house with the cash flow from his assets if he chooses, and it will not impact his financial security. Alex relied on capital appreciation, hoping the house would go up in value. Ben relied on cash flow. The rich focus on cash flow, while the poor and middle class focus on what they think is net worth. The key insight here is that financial literacy is the ability to read the numbers and understand the story they tell. If you look at the cash flow pattern of a person, you can see if they are heading toward wealth or poverty. If cash flows into the asset column and stays there, they are getting richer. If cash flows out to the liability column and then to expenses, they are working hard but getting nowhere. Building a solid financial foundation means acquiring assets that produce income before buying luxuries that consume income. Period. Chapter 3. Mind your own business. A common mistake people make is confusing their profession with their business. Your profession is what you do 40 hours a week to pay the bills. Your business is what you own that builds your wealth. Most people spend their lives minding someone else's business and making that person rich. They work to make their employers rich. They work to make the government rich by paying taxes. They work to make the bank rich by paying off their mortgage and credit cards. To become financially free, you must separate your profession from your business. You can keep your day job, but you must start minding your own business by building your asset column. The rich focus on their asset columns, while everyone else focuses on their income statements. When you ask people what their business is, they often say things like, "I am a banker." Then you ask if they own the bank, and they say, "No, I work there." In that instance, they have confused their profession with their business. Their profession is a banker, but they do not have a business. Ray Kroc, the man who turned McDonald's into a global empire, understood this distinction perfectly. He once asked a group of MBA students what business he was in. Everyone laughed and said, "The hamburger business." Ray replied that he was not in the hamburger business. His business was real estate. He knew that the franchise operator would pay for the land, and that land was the most valuable asset in the portfolio. Today, McDonald's is one of the largest owners of real estate in the world. You must acquire assets that you love because if you do not love them, you will not take care of them. For some, this means collecting real estate. For others, it means buying stocks in companies they believe in. Here is a list of real assets that you should consider acquiring. 1. Businesses that do not require your presence. If you have to work there, it is not a business, it is a job. 2. Stocks. 3. Bonds. 4. Mutual funds. 5. Income-generating real estate. 6. Notes or IOUs. 7. Royalties from intellectual property such as music, scripts, and patents. 8. Anything else that has value, produces income or appreciates and has a ready market. Start young. When $1 goes into your asset column, it becomes your employee. The best thing about money is that it works 24 hours a day and can work for generations. Keep your day job, be a great hard-working employee, but keep building that asset column. Analysis and insight. Let us apply this concept to a modern context with a software engineer named Tom. Tom makes a high salary, perhaps $150,000 a year. This is his profession. However, Tom spends all his income on a high-rent apartment, expensive dinners, and the latest gadgets. He has no business. If Tom is laid off, his income drops to zero immediately. Now consider a teacher named Maria. Maria earns $50,000 a year. Her profession pays less than Tom's. However, Maria minds her own business. Every month she takes 20% of her paycheck and buys dividend-paying stocks and index funds. Over 10 years, her asset column grows. The dividends start paying her phone bill. Then they pay her car insurance. Eventually, the income from her assets pays her rent. Maria has a business that generates cash flow regardless of whether she goes to school to teach. The trap for the middle class is thinking that a higher salary solves financial problems. It usually does not. A higher salary usually leads to higher taxes and higher spending. This is called lifestyle creep. You get a raise, so you buy a boat. Now you have a boat liability that requires maintenance, storage fees, and fuel. You have increased your expenses, not your assets. Minding your own business means exercising the discipline to keep your expenses low while you pour cash into the asset column. Once the cash flow from the assets is sufficient, you can use that income to buy the boat. The rich buy luxuries last, while the poor and middle class buy them first. Chapter 4. The History of Taxes and the Power of Corporations. The history of taxes is a history of class warfare that backfired. Originally, there were no taxes in England or America. Taxes were only levied temporarily to pay for wars. The idea of a permanent income tax was sold to the masses by telling them it would only punish the rich. The poor and middle class voted for this law because they believed in the Robin Hood theory of taking from the rich to give to the poor. However, the government's appetite for money is insatiable. Once the government got a taste of money, it grew. The tax laws that were originally intended for the rich soon trickled down to the middle class and eventually the poor. The rich, however, did not sit still and let themselves be taxed. They used their financial knowledge to find an escape. They used the corporation. A corporation is the biggest secret of the rich. It is not a building or a factory. It is a legal document sitting in an attorney's office. It creates a legal body without a soul. The wealth of the rich is protected within this vehicle. The diagram of how a corporation works versus an individual is crucial to understand. An employee earns money, pays taxes, and tries to live on what is left. A corporation earns money, spends everything it can, and is taxed on anything that is left. This allows the rich to pay for expenses with pre-tax dollars. If you own a corporation, your board meetings can be held in Hawaii. Your car payments, insurance, and repairs can be company expenses. Your health club membership can be a company expense. Most restaurant meals can be partial expenses. You do this legally with pre-tax dollars. To utilize these tools, you need to develop your financial IQ. This intelligence stands on 4 pillars. 1. Accounting. This is financial literacy, or the ability to read numbers. You must be able to read financial statements to know the strengths and weaknesses of a business. 2. Investing. This is the science of making money. It involves strategies and formulas. 3. Understanding markets. This is the science of supply and demand. You need to know the technical aspects of the market, which are emotion-driven, and the fundamental aspects, which are economic sense. 4. The law. This involves knowing tax advantages and protections. A person who understands the tax advantages and protections provided by a corporation can get rich much faster than someone who is an employee or a sole proprietor. Analysis and insight. Let us look at the power of the corporation through a hypothetical example of 2 graphic designers, John and Sarah. John works as a freelancer, but operates as a sole proprietor. He makes $100,000 a year. Because he is a sole proprietor, this income passes directly to him. He is taxed on the full $100,000. After federal taxes, state taxes, and self-employment taxes, he might be left with $65,000. He then has to pay for his computer, his internet, his home office desk, and his travel to meet clients using that post-tax money. Sarah also makes $100,000 a year, but she set up an S corporation or an LLC taxed as a corporation. Her corporation earns the $100,000. Before she pays herself a salary, the corporation pays for her high-end computer, her software subscriptions, her internet bill, her cell phone bill, and her travel expenses to a design conference in New York. Let us say these expenses total $30,000. The corporation now has $70,000 of taxable income left. Sarah pays herself a salary from this and perhaps takes some as a dividend distribution, which often has a lower tax burden. Because she deducted the necessary business expenses before paying taxes, she effectively saved thousands of dollars that John had to pay to the government. This extra capital can be reinvested into her business to buy better equipment or hire an assistant, accelerating her growth. This is not about evading taxes. It is about using the incentives the government created to encourage business growth. The government wants you to start businesses and hire people, so they offer tax breaks to those who do. Chapter 5. The rich invent money. We all have tremendous potential, and we are all blessed with gifts. Yet the one thing that holds all of us back is some degree of self-doubt. In the real world, it is not the smart who get ahead, but the bold. Financial genius requires both technical knowledge and courage. If fear is too strong, the genius is suppressed. The reason you want to develop your financial IQ is to have more options. If one opportunity closes, you need to be able to see another. Most people only know one solution to money problems: work hard, save, and borrow. But the rich invent money. They create opportunities. They see what others miss. There are two types of investors. The first type is the most common. This is a person who buys a packaged investment they call a retail outlet, such as a real estate company or a stockbroker, and they buy something. It could be a mutual fund, a REIT, a stock, or a bond. This is the clean and easy way of investing. The second type is the investor who creates investments. This investor usually assembles a deal. This is more like a professional contractor who builds a house. You need to know how to put the pieces together. To be the second type of investor, you need three main skills. 1. Find an opportunity that everyone else missed. You see with your mind what others miss with their eyes. For example, you might find a house that looks run down but is on a lot that is zoned for commercial use. The value is in the land and the zoning, not the house. 2. Raise money. Most people only know how to go to the bank. The rich investor knows how to raise capital from other investors. You do not need to have money to make money. You just need to know how to structure the deal. 3. Organize smart people. Intelligent people work with or hire people who are more intelligent than they are. You need a team of advisors, attorneys, and accountants. The single most powerful asset we all have is our mind. If it is trained well, it can create enormous wealth in what seems like an instant. If it is untrained, it can create extreme poverty that lasts a lifetime. Analysis and insight. Let us illustrate the concept of inventing money with a story about a recession. Imagine the economy crashes, stock prices drop, and the real estate market freezes. The average person, let's call him Robert, panics. He sells his stocks at a loss because he is afraid they will go to zero. He holds onto his money tightly, afraid to spend a dime. He sees the crash as a disaster. The rich investor, let's call her Linda, sees the crash as a sale. She sees a house that was worth $200,000 now selling for $100,000 because the owner is desperate and the bank is foreclosing. Linda does not have $100,000, but she knows the house is worth more. She negotiates a deal with the bank to buy it for $100,000. She then finds a buyer who wants the house but has bad credit. She sells the house to this buyer for $140,000 on a contract for deed. Linda effectively used her mind to bridge the gap between the bank and the buyer. She might have put down a small deposit, say $2,000, to secure the contract. She sold the contract or the house for a $40,000 profit without ever using her own money to pay the full price. She created $40,000 out of thin air using her financial intelligence. She invented money. Another example is in the stock market. Most people buy stocks hoping they go up. A sophisticated investor might use options. If a stock is falling, they can buy a put option, which increases in value as the stock price decreases. While the masses are losing money, the sophisticated investor is making money because they understand how the instruments work. They are not gambling, they are educated. The key takeaway is that opportunities are abundant, but your ability to see them depends on your vocabulary and your understanding of the game. If you think, "I can't afford it," you are blind. If you ask, "How can I structure this?" you begin to see. We have now covered the importance of minding your own business, the legal power of corporations, and the creativity required to invent money. These are the engines of wealth creation. In the next section, we will discuss the skills you need to work to learn, not just to earn, and how to overcome the major obstacles that stand between you and financial freedom. Before we move on, I have a simple question for you. Have you ever had a brilliant idea for a business or investment, but talked yourself out of it because you didn't have the money? Let me know in the comments below. Chapter 6. Work to learn. Do not work for money. Job security meant everything to the educated dad. Learning meant everything to the rich dad. This is a fundamental divide in how people approach their careers. Most people seek a job for the benefits, the salary, and the security. They want to know they have a steady paycheck and health insurance. The rich dad advised seeking a job for what you will learn, not what you will earn. You should look down the road at what skills you want to acquire before choosing a specific profession. The world is filled with smart, talented, and educated people who are broke. They are often one skill away from great wealth. There is a common phrase that says, "Job" is an acronym for just over broke. Unfortunately, this applies to millions of people. Because schools do not think financial intelligence is an intelligence, most workers live within their means, work hard, and pay bills. The author joined the Marine Corps not because he wanted to be a pilot, but because he wanted to learn leadership. He knew that the hardest part of running a company is managing people. If you cannot be a good leader, you will get shot in the back both in war and in business. Next, he joined Xerox not for the salary, but because they had the best sales training program. He was terrified of rejection. He had to overcome his shyness. He worked there until he was one of the top salespeople. Once he learned these skills, he resigned to start his own business. Management skills are crucial for success. The three main management skills are the management of cash flow, the management of systems, and the management of people. In addition to these, sales and marketing are the most important specialized skills. The ability to sell and to communicate to another human being is the base skill of personal success. This applies to a customer, an employee, a boss, a spouse, or a child. Communication skills such as writing, speaking, and negotiating are crucial. Most people are poor because they are specialists. They know a lot about a little. To be rich, you must know a little about a lot. Analysis and insight. Consider the case of a brilliant author named Julian. Julian writes incredible novels that are literary masterpieces. However, he struggles to pay rent. He refuses to learn how to sell his books because he believes that sales is dirty or beneath him. He thinks his work should speak for itself. Now consider a mediocre writer named Brad. Brad writes simple, catchy books about romance or thrillers. They are not literary masterpieces. However, Brad has spent a year studying marketing. He knows how to write a compelling headline. He knows how to run ads on social media. He is not afraid to go on television and talk about his book. Brad becomes a best-selling author, while Julian remains a starving artist. The title is best-selling author, not best writing author. This distinction is vital. Julian is a specialist in writing. Brad is a generalist who combined writing with sales and marketing. This synergy of skills creates wealth. If Julian simply took a course in sales, his income would skyrocket. But his arrogance and his cling to specialization hold him back. The lesson is that you should not just work to pay the bills. You should take a job that forces you to learn a skill you lack. If you're afraid of selling, take a job in telemarketing. It will be painful, but the skill you acquire will be worth millions over your lifetime. Chapter 7. Overcoming obstacles. Even once people have become financially literate, they may still face roadblocks to becoming financially independent. There are 5 main reasons why financially literate people may still not develop abundant asset columns. These are fear, cynicism, laziness, bad habits, and arrogance. First is fear. Everyone has a fear of losing money. The difference is how you handle the fear. The rich dad liked the attitude of Texans. When Texans win, they win big. When they lose, it is spectacular. They do not bury their failures. They get inspired by them. They take their failures and turn them into rallying cries. Failure inspires winners, but failure defeats losers. If you have little money and want to be rich, you must be focused, not balanced. Balanced people go nowhere, they stay in one spot. To make progress, you must first go unbalanced. You must put a lot of eggs in a few baskets and watch them carefully. Do not do what poor and middle-class people do, which is put a few eggs in many baskets. Second is cynicism. We all have a chicken little inside of us, yelling that the sky is falling. Cynics criticize and winners analyze. Criticism blinds you while analysis opens your eyes. Analysis allows winners to see that critics are blind and to see opportunities that everyone else missed. Finding what people miss is the key to any success. Third is laziness. Busy people are often the most lazy. They stay busy as a way of avoiding something they do not want to face. They are busy working to pay bills, so they do not have to face the fact that they are not building wealth. The cure for laziness is a little greed. You must sit down and ask yourself what is in it for you. What would life be like if you never had to work again? Without that little greed, the desire to have something better, progress is not made. Fourth is bad habits. Our lives are a reflection of our habits more than our education. The most important rule is to pay yourself first. Even if you are short on money, you must pay yourself first. This forces you to be mentally stronger. If you pay yourself last, you feel no pressure, but you also have no money. By paying yourself first, the pressure of paying your creditors forces you to come up with new ways to make money. Fifth is arrogance. Arrogance is ego plus ignorance. What you know makes you money. What you don't know loses you money. Every time you are arrogant, you lose money because you believe that what you don't know is not important. When you know you are ignorant in a subject, start educating yourself by finding an expert in the field or a book on the subject. Analysis and insight. Let us examine the obstacle of cynicism with a real estate example. Imagine a neighborhood where property prices have crashed. The news is full of stories about how bad the economy is. Everyone is saying real estate is a bad investment. This is the noise. A cynic, let's call him Mark, listens to the noise. He says he does not want to fix toilets and that tenants ruin houses. He lists all the reasons why it will not work. He feels smart because he has identified the risks. He stays safe, but he stays poor. An analyzer, let's call her Sarah, hears the same noise but chooses to look at the numbers. She drives through the neighborhood. She notices that while prices are down, rents are still stable because people still need a place to live. She realizes that she can buy a house for a mortgage payment that is half the cost of the monthly rent. She calculates the cash flow. She sees that the risk is low because the numbers work. She buys the house. 5 years later, the market recovers. Mark says Sarah got lucky. Sarah knows it wasn't luck. It was her ability to shut out the cynical noise and analyze the facts. Mark let his doubts paralyze him. Sarah let her analysis empower her. This applies to stocks, business, and any other investment vehicle. Cynicism is expensive because it costs you opportunities. Chapter 8 and 9, Getting Started and Action Steps. There is a gold mine everywhere, but most people are not trained to see it. To awaken your financial genius, you can follow these 10 steps. 1. I need a reason greater than reality. This is the power of spirit. If you do not have a strong reason, the road is too hard. You need a combination of wants and don't wants. For example, I don't want to work all my life. I want to be free to travel the world. 2. I choose daily. This is the power of choice. Every day with every dollar, you choose to be rich, poor, or middle class. You also choose what you put in your head. Invest in education first. 3. Choose friends carefully. This is the power of association. Do not listen to poor or frightened people. They are chicken littles. Seek out people who are where you want to be and learn from them. 4. Master a formula and then learn a new one. This is the power of learning quickly. You become what you study. Most people only know the formula of working for money. You need to learn the formula for investing in foreclosures or tax liens or stocks. Once you master one, learn another. 5. Pay yourself first. This is the power of self-discipline. If you cannot control yourself, do not try to get rich. You must have the discipline to put money into your asset column before you pay your bills. This is the most difficult step for most people. 6. Pay your brokers well. This is the power of good advice. Rich people pay professionals well because those professionals make them money. A good broker provides you with information and saves you time. 7. Be an Indian giver. This is the power of getting something for nothing. In the world of investing, you want to get your initial capital back as fast as possible. Once you have your money back, the asset you own is free. You have an infinite return on investment. 8. Assets buy luxuries. This is the power of focus. Do not buy a luxury car on credit. Buy an asset and let the income from that asset buy the car. This takes discipline, but it builds wealth. 9. The need for heroes. This is the power of myth. Heroes make it look easy. When you have heroes, you tap into a source of raw genius. You say to yourself, if they can do it, so can I. 10. Teach and you shall receive. This is the power of giving. If you want something, give it first. If you want money, give money. If you want a smile, give a smile. It will come back to you in multiples. Analysis and conclusion. The journey to financial freedom is a process of changing your habits and your mindset. It starts with a simple decision to stop doing what is not working. If working hard and saving money in a low-interest bank account is not making you rich, you must stop doing it. You must look for new ideas. Go to bookstores, search the internet, look for books on different and unique subjects. Buy a book on a formula you know nothing about and read it. Then take action. Finding a deal is like riding a bike. You will wobble at first, but you must keep riding. You must make offers. Most people never get rich because they never make an offer. They are terrified of rejection or offending the seller. But the game of business is a game of offers and counter-offers. You should look for bargains in all the wrong places. You should look for people who want to sell, not just people who want to buy. You should think big. Retailers love volume discounts. You should look for volume discounts in investments too. Action always beats inaction. Money is only an idea. If you want more money, simply change your thinking. Every self-made person started small with an idea and turned it into something big. Investing is the same. It starts with a few dollars and grows into something massive. You have been given two great gifts, which are your mind and your time. It is up to you to use them wisely. Do not play it safe. Play it smart. If you found these insights on wealth building and financial mindset valuable, please subscribe to our channel. We are dedicated to providing you with the knowledge you need to master your money and live a life of freedom. Join our community of future millionaires today.